Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got, I think, maybe one of the most disliked guests in JRE history. I mean, this guy is getting worse comments than Mike Baker. I mean, when Bert Kreischer comes on, people go at him, but it's all with love because it's Bert. You can't help but love him. But when it comes to Josh Dubin, oh gosh, this guy right here, I have not seen so many comments disliking one of these guys in all my days. This is remarkable. More dislikes than likes. It's just wild to see. If you don't know about Josh Dubin got disliked because he brought this guy on the podcast. Former incarcerated advocate for NYC criminal justice reform, arrested for murder. This guy's name was Sheldon Johnson. He was found with a person's parts inside of his freezer. He was on film transporting the parts from where the actual assault and where the fatal assault took place all the way back to his place. He was seen on camera wearing different wigs and different outfits, and of course he got caught, and this is what he looked like as he was getting caught, and it's all allegedly. But again, he got caught with a guy's parts inside his freezer. That's just, once that happens, it's really hard. And the thing about it is, with Josh Dubin, I think so many people are upset with Josh Dubin because of the way that he's decided to act about the whole thing. You're rolling through the comments. I mean, it's pretty astounding. You never really see anything like this. How dare Josh show up without a murderer? I'll go through the, you know what? I will just go up really quick. R.I.P. This person said it right here. R.I.P. to Alex Jones's, one of his reporters, Jamie White, was fatally assaulted himself in Austin. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, just rest in peace to that guy. He was fighting the good fight, and he's definitely gone too soon. Yeah, I hope that gets talked about in more places. This is a great this guest is the best evidence that Joe doesn't read the comment section. 100% true. I hope Josh will someday care about victims as much as he cares about criminals. I lost my head when I got the Oh man. Yeah. These guys literally freed a murderer that immediately murdered someone as soon as they got out. That's 100% true. Allegedly, I guess. This is the guy who got that guy out of jail and he went on to kill again. I mean, just so many comments. I don't know if having Josh bring a guest on again is such a great idea. Last time he brought a guest on, again, it was someone who went on to commit a heinous crime. I mean, premeditated. I mean, just what he did with the body, like all together, just a terrible act. Something about Josh Dubin really pisses me off. I'm surprised Josh isn't sponsored by Fridge Dyer Freezers. That's a terrible joke. I'm telling you, man, there's some people in the comment sections. You guys could go and be comedians. You don't even know it. I hope Josh brings Sheldon back on. Besides the body part in the freezer and the multiple other crimes, he was a good dude. Like, this just goes on and on. I could really care less about this guy. He's on way too much, and also he helped free a murderer. Josh defending the men in Ohio only makes me think that they actually did it. And that's something to really touch on, because he is talking about something that's called the Ohio 4. 4 people that he is saying are wrongly convicted, but he was also saying that Sheldon was wrongly sentenced, that he served too much time. Like, altogether, just with what happened with Sheldon, what happened with this guy, and what he's saying now, people find it hard to believe him, because now he just seems like a guy. First off, he's very woke, he's very liberal, New York guy, so New York woke lawyer of sorts, constantly looks at black people who are, guilty of crimes or committed crimes and says, you know what, I don't think they did it, and gets them out. And a lot of times, before all this happened, Josh Dubin was praised. People loved hearing the stories. I loved hearing Josh Dubin bring somebody on and they were doing good and they would tell their story. And it was a beautiful thing. But after what happened with Sheldon, I have never seen the JRE audience turn on someone like this. I don't even enjoy this guy. He forces so much emotion into his voice. I just don't buy it. Anytime this guy says wrongfully convicted, I think twice. And that's the thing. Besides the JRE audience, when he hasn't taken proper responsibility, now the platform that you go on to get these cases heard by a massive audience, the whole audience is now looking at you going, I don't know about all this. You know, somebody said wrongfully convicted of murder. They didn't wrongly convicted of a murder they didn't commit. Oh, really? I'm telling you, man. Some people in the comments are hilarious. Having this guy back on made me feel embarrassed. This is too weird to watch. Wait a minute. Isn't this the dude that brought the rightfully convicted felon on who was later released and unalived someone a few weeks after being on JRE? Yep, it was basically a month after. Maybe 5 weeks later he actually did it. Not listening to this podcast, came straight to the comments. Me too, dude. But it is kind of, on this channel, it is my job. So I had to listen to the podcast. And it was much of the same of what we've always heard. This dude is the worst, releases decapitating murderers back in the general public. Pass. Rest in peace to Jamie White. 100% rest in peace to Jamie White. This guy's freed a murderer, brought him on the show, then he murdered someone after that. No thanks, Josh Dubious. There's just a whole lot of people saying stuff like that. And, Joe, this guy is back. Joe, what are you doing, bro? So many people are upset with Josh Dubin. But here's the thing. The reason that they're upset is, and I'm going to play it for you right now. The reason they're upset is because he didn't take proper responsibility for what happened. If he didn't want to apologize to Joe, that's fine. We all know Joe. He's very modest. He doesn't need apologies like that. He doesn't care about stuff like that. He's very generous, very, very generous, very nice. He doesn't need it. But he comes to the audience to rile up the audience and get them on his side and on the person's side that he's bringing along with him. So to the audience, he actually owes a responsibility. But in the last time, not this new time, the last time he was on, he didn't really do that. Check this out.
I think unfortunately for my mental health, I just wear that stuff. If I felt even remotely responsible for that, which I do, and I can be at peace with it, but I didn't cause that death. And I don't, I can take some responsibility for it in the sense that what could I do going forward? Whether it's people that are being exonerated for crimes they didn't commit, or if it's people that are getting resentenced, you cannot undo decades of confinement. You just can't. And they all need mental health counseling, all of them. And I have to put that on my shoulders. I just do. Because, they all have issues and they come out and need mental health counseling. And there's a stigma attached to it, especially in the African-American community. And there shouldn't be. It's no different than if you have a problem with your liver, and you have to take medication. I mean, I've always been upfront about the fact that I'm on medication. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And it's especially warranted when you're in those circumstances. Again, none of this is to make an excuse, but I just think that there's a lot more emphasis that I can focus on assimilation more. And I think that making sure that they have job training and that they feel safe when they get out. I mean, there hasn't been one person who I've been involved in their case where even when they're innocent, they get out and it's a fucking shock. And I need to be a lot more sensitive to that, I think, and pay a lot more attention to what they're doing, how they're doing. Again, I had the foresight to put Sheldon in touch with and ensure that we were getting him mental health counseling with a trauma therapist, but I didn't want to meddle too much in that because it's on him to go. So, I mean, that's where I land, for better or for worse.
Well, if the guy really did slash his face, if you've been in literal mortal combat with a person and this person is allegedly threatening your son or whatever, there's only so much you can do to stop a person from seeking revenge.
I guess.
Especially if they don't have any hope outside of the system and they've been completely institutionalized, which, given the length of his sentence, is reasonable to assume.
Yeah, you're a lot more forgiving and understanding than a lot of people were and have been about this. There's been two schools of thought in the reaction. I mean, I got pretty nasty hate mail, and I got a lot of words of encouragement. I think the hate mail outweighed the words of encouragement.
Always.
But
psychologically, always.
I mean, by in substance, number, and probably psychologically.
Yeah.
But that just gives me fuel. If you're sending me, fuck you, you race baiter, you this, you that.
Race baiter?
Oh, yeah, I got a lot of that.
How are you a race baiter?
By telling the truth about the state of race and the criminal justice system in this country. You see, the thing is, the one force field I have around myself is when that's incoming, I'm able to say, okay, thanks for the fuel. I'll never respond to it. Unless you're doing mental health counseling in a prison, unless you're a corrections officer or a police officer, know what it's like to be incarcerated, you have no business giving me your opinion about what you think I am or others that do this work. Get in the arena and do it yourself. And I take that with a big grain of salt. I have enough common sense and practical sense to sort of to disregard that. But
you see what I mean there? Like, you come on this show to let people know about a certain case and the Innocence Project, and what you're trying to do, what everybody's trying to do when they're on this show, you're hoping that the people take to Twitter, take to Facebook, write emails, and start letting it be known on their local government level, or if you actually give them a person to actually contact, courthouse, prosecutor, etc., you're wanting everybody, you're wanting all of us to rally behind you. And then you bring someone on that does that, and then your response is, well, unless you're doing this work and you can just shut the F up. Like, what do I care what these people think? They're just fuel. It's like you led a bunch of people wrong. When I heard Sheldon speak, I was like, oh, this guy's still in the streets. I know, I was in the streets. I know what it sounds like when someone's still in the streets. When people are talking about rules and morals, and they're talking about violent acts they've committed against people, and they're bringing up rules and morals, they usually don't have rules and morals. Just that was my indicator. Plus how many things he'd done. He was still kind of bragging about these things. I was like, oh, this guy, you don't want to, this guy's obviously still doing his thing, or at least still has the mentality, and the mentality is the main thing that gets you in trouble. So I was fine knowing what I was watching, but a lot of people probably were like, man, another poor black guy getting it, man. And the thing is, there are a lot of guys who are wrongly convicted. There are a lot of guys who are getting screwed by the system. But now, whenever you bring a story like that, we can't exactly just believe you, just blindly. Joe's always going to be for his friends. Joe and this guy are friends. So, I can't look badly upon Joe because he'll always do that. When he has a friend, he's bringing his friends on. If it's between Barack Obama and some comedian that he really likes that performs on the mothership, he's going with the comedian from the mothership. That's it. That's how he goes. When he's your friend, he's your friend. Good quality. But when it comes to Josh Dubin, a lot of us just can't believe him. And then in this episode, I found it absolutely hilarious that he was basically doing the exact same, even more so. I didn't even understand how he didn't even see what he was saying. Listen to this clip. You know, I'll go straight to him. I won't even let the whole clip play out. Listen to this, what this guy has to say about people and what they should and shouldn't be doing. Listen to this.
Evidence which does occur, I think they think, well, he's guilty, I'll cheat a little bit, so what? You know, which is insane, but it happens.
It's like that. Do you know that quote about capitalism? Capitalism is the absolute worst way to run a country except for all the other ways.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great quote, but when will right. This is the lesser of all the evils finally start catching up with us? And it's so
Don't even get me started on that. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on
You know, it's so politically driven. If people were more aware of how politically driven some of these prosecutions are, and then you put your finger on the nerve root of what the problem is from the standpoint of human psychology. It's been happening since the beginning of time and will continue to happen until people suffer ego death. And suffering an ego death requires you to look yourself in the mirror in an honest way and to be able to say 4 magic words. I made a mistake. That's it. And what stands in the way, in my mind, of prosecutors just so often not moving from their position is because they can't say, I made a mistake, or the office where I work made a mistake. You're going to find that one of the...
That's what he didn't do. This is his most recent appearance. This is where he just showed up this week. The last time he was saying that, though. So the last time when it came time for him to take responsibility, I'm throwing my pen. The last time it came for him to take responsibility, he blamed the mental health issues. And you know, a lot of them have mental health issues. And, you know, I can't control, he's supposed to go, but I can't control that. It's like, hey, bro, you got somebody who's violent out of jail. Aren't you supposed to just stay on them like glue? Or at least have somebody that does and make sure that they go to the things? Shouldn't that be mandatory? Hey, you're supposed to be in jail for another 20 years. So you're 100% going to these classes, right? Like, you know that, right? Or else I'm going to petition to get you back in jail. Shouldn't that be the attitude? Shouldn't it just be like a halfway house almost kind of vibe? You just got him out. You just got him out and you're just letting him go. He's at the mothership partying with Rogan. Then he's just back to his life, chilling with Alvin Bragg, which is 100% true. This guy was pictured with Alvin Bragg, working alongside Alvin Bragg's team and whatnot. So crazy. So he blames mental health. Then he says they all have issues. And then he puts it on the black community at the end of it all. And of course, you know, if you let him talk longer about the black community, that's actually white people's fault, and that's actually capitalism's fault, and that's actually America's fault, and you know, this guy was every other thing's fault other than him. And then he comes on here saying, man, if they could just say, I made a mistake. Why can't you say? Why haven't you said that? And that's why I think there's so many people who have such an issue with Josh Dubin. I mean, again, the dislikes to likes ratio is wild. It's wild. And it has nothing to do with Joe, and it has nothing to do with the show. It just has to do with a bunch of people feeling like they've been deceived by this guy. And again, hops on the show 4 months later, if that, you know, maybe less. Like, this guy's on as much as Mike Baker, you know, which is fine. It's Joe's friend. Again, I'll never, more comments, you know, the guy should stop helping criminals to commit murder. Like, there's just comments after. I've never seen it like this. Can't believe this dude is still trying to get people out of jail after the last dude he took on the podcast. And as for Joe, it's disgraceful to have him back on. These comments are hilarious. A bunch of trolls. Buddy, they're not trolls. They're people who really feel like this is nonsense. I believe this guy once, and all of a sudden, who is it that won't keep their tongue and mouth quiet? Well, that's Josh. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you need some water and you don't realize it. Who's smacking their lips? People have the funniest things to say in comments. Honestly, it's sad to see what an empty shell of himself. Oh, come on. Rogan's, what do you mean the mighty have fallen? Listen, you guys know I'm biased. I'm biased, obviously. I think he's great. He's doing it for his friend. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, eventually you're going to see me do interviews and you're going to be like, well, who's this guy? And I'm going to be like, he's my buddy. Been my buddy, okay? lost all credibility after that dismemberment. Bro, nobody wants to hear anything this dude has to say. I don't understand. Just the comments are off the scale in terms of negativity. And it used to be the exact opposite when it came to Josh Dubin. It used to be people being so thankful he brought this person to hear this story. And Josh silently distanced himself from the Innocence Project. He just quietly doesn't do that anymore. He didn't even announce that on his last appearance. So the lack of responsibility, and then on top of that, you fool everybody. Then you don't take responsibility. You fooled everybody with the guy who came in and fatally did that to that person. Brutally, I might add. And now you're back on the podcast and you're acting like nothing happened. And you're like, I'm going to help these guys. These guys, this time, guys. Yeah, no one believes you. Josh Dubin quickly becoming the most the most hated guy on the Joe Rogan Experience. Very shocking. I thought Mike Baker would have that title for a very long time, but you know, it went to Josh Dubin. I mean, I rarely dislike a guest, but I did listen to this episode. I only did it once. I threw it on 2.8 speed, went through it. There was no exciting information at all. The Ohio 4, you know, you'd have to look into that yourself. I mean, you can't. Most people don't want to take Josh's word. If you look into the Ohio 4 and you feel like, hey, these guys are innocent, but then people started looking into the guy that he brought with him, J.D. Thompson or something like that. And then people are saying there's questionable stuff about that guy. It's like, what's going on, man? You know? Anyways, guys, New York woke people, some of the worst. I'm out.